Hi, sweet beans. Welcome back to Wild Geese. I'm your host, Anna. Okay, the last episode was very video essay-esque. This one is going to be more just chatty. I remember a few episodes ago, I said that I feel like you can break Wild Geese down into two different types of episodes, and one is more of a rabbit hole and one is more casual. And someone commented, oh, so like a rabbit hole episode and a silly goose episode. And I was like, okay, yeah, so this is a silly goose episode, if you will. Also, I'm going to say this and move on very quickly from it, but I got another haircut and it feels very right to me. The haircut right before this one, I feel like I liked it sometimes and I really hated it other times. And I just felt the call to go even shorter. So here we are now. I was afraid that I was going to freak out about this because a pixie cut has always felt like it was going to be a very dramatic thing. But I think because I went to a bob first, it really wasn't a big jump to a pixie cut. I had more of a mental breakdown over the bob than I did with this. So also huge shout out to Tess Bowens who made that intro animation. She's doing a career pivot into more motion design and she made that for her portfolio and then sent it over to me and said I could use it. So thank you so much for that, Tess. I'll be honest, today's episode does not have a very defined topic. I kind of just want to yap about some things that have been floating around in my mind lately. Top of the list being home. Like, what does building a home mean, whether it's in our physical space or like the home that we're building through our dreams, and also just moving through transitions in life, because I'm going through a pretty big one right now, and it's also the beginning of spring, and it feels like this moment. I wrote in my journal the other day, it feels like kind of being pushed out of the nest. Like, I know that as soon as it turns into really good weather, people are like, oh, yes, let's go outside. But I was talking to my roommate the other day about how it does feel kind of jolting sometimes when you have been so cocooned inside for so long. And it can also feel particularly isolating to feel like the weather's not matching your moods. Like when I'm feeling really good and it's sunny and beautiful outside, it's like, oh, incredible, expansive, whatever. But then when it's sunny and beautiful outside, but I'm feeling like shit, it's jolting. And I remember the other day I was taking a walk and I was feeling like that. I was feeling like, oh my God, why can't I snap myself out of this horrible mood? It's so nice outside. And I realized I think I'm going through a little bit of a grieving process because of a transition that I'm going through in my life. It is all good things. It is a good transition, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with a flavor of grief because things are changing, you know? Speaking of navigating transitions in life, I actually recently found out that my primary care doctor is going on maternity leave. So that means I needed to find someone new for the time being. And she's got big shoes to fill. I remember the first time I saw her, I finally felt like I was being taken seriously. I told her why I came in that day, and I was like, I know that all of this could just be anxiety. And she stopped me and she was like, before we even talk about anxiety, we're going to run all of the tests we possibly can. And it's important to me to find that again. So I'm turning back to the platform I found her on, ZocDoc, the sponsor of today's episode. ZocDoc is a free website that helps you find and book in-network high-quality doctors so you can find someone you love. I remember when I first moved to New York City at 18, I was really anxious about finding a doctor that I could trust in a new city with no one to refer me. But ZocDoc makes it so simple. It takes something that normally feels overwhelming and turns it into something you can actually take action on to finally prioritize your health. Whether you're looking for dermatology, dentistry, primary care, eye care, or one of the other 200 plus specialties offered on ZocDoc, you can easily search by specialty or symptom to build the care team that's right for you. With more than 150,000 providers across 50 states on the platform, you'll be able to book an in-network appointment seamlessly. My absolute favorite part of the platform is the verified patient reviews. You can get a sense of the doctor's bedside manner and whether it's compatible with your personal preferences before you even step into the waiting room. And if you don't want to step into a waiting room at all, you can book a video visit on ZocDoc too. When you're ready, you can see their real-time availability and click to book instantly. You don't even have to pick up your phone to call. The process can be fast, with users typically landing appointments between 24 to 72 hours of booking. I've even been able to book same-day appointments in the past, so if you've been putting off your next doctor's appointment, this is your reminder to take care of yourself. It doesn't have to be stressful. Using ZocDoc is free. Visit my sponsor by using my link, ZocDoc.com/Anna Howard, or click the link in the episode description and instantly book an appointment with a top-rated in-network doctor today. Thank you to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video and for helping us all take better care of our health. But the reason I want to talk about home is because I am gearing up to move out of the home that I've lived in for, I believe, 5 years now. And I'm going to try not to cry. I feel like I've I've already recorded this multiple times and I've started crying every time. I honestly never imagined I would be able to stay in one apartment for this amount of time. If you know anything about the apartment situation in New York City, unless you own a place here, which I don't know anyone who does, but unless you own a place here, you basically get priced out of your apartment every year or maybe 2 years. But we landed a COVID deal on this apartment, and I have 3 roommates, so it's 4 of us with 1 bathroom. And when I tell people that who don't live in New York City, they're often like, "That's horrible, that sounds awful, whatever." And it's actually been the best thing ever. Living with roommates who either became really great friends or were really great friends before we moved in was the thing that I knew I wanted to give myself in my early 20s. And across the board, barring one horrific roommate story, I've been so lucky with my roommates. In college, when I first moved to New York City, we had like lottery roommates, like it was just a random person that you were paired with. And in those situations, I became best friends with my roommates in college. And those were like in the room with me, roommates. And then at the end of college, COVID broke out and I went home for a while to rural West Texas, hunkered down there. And when it came time to figure out what my next move was, I almost didn't come back to New York City. But the thing that brought me back was my friends. And I was in a relationship at the time, but I was like, I am not ready to only live with the guy that I'm dating. So it was actually me and my ex-boyfriend and then another couple living together in this apartment that had walls that didn't reach the ceiling. You know, there was no privacy, but still I became best friends with that other couple. And then we moved here and it was me and my ex living in this room with roommates. And I remember every time that the lease would come up, the roommates would be like, "Are you guys gonna move in together? Like just the 2 of you?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." I was so averse to isolating myself in my relationship and so enamored with this thing that can happen when you're living with roommates that feels like found family. When you're living in a place that's so expensive, like New York City, it becomes a necessity a lot of the times to have roommates. But when you have a good relationship with your roommates, they become your family. You watch out for each other. You start to notice little things about their habits. I know people have been confused in the past by like, well, why would you want to have 3 roommates? And I'm like, well, why would you want to live with your sisters and brothers? Like, because that's my family. And don't get me wrong, I have family, but they live across the country from me. So they really have become like my found family here. And the people that I live with now or lived with in the past, like those people are to this day like my ride or dies. And I'm actually the longest standing roommate here. I'm the only one that originally moved in here. Everybody else moved out to move in with partners or move out of living with partners. So it's actually a totally different group than who I started with, but it's still the warmest environment to come home to. And the women that I live with now, we have so much care and love and respect for each other. Like the other night, we spent all night talking, and it started with some conversation about like the fact that all of the celebrities are having insane work done right now. And then at some point we were talking about dinosaurs. And then by the end of it, we were like planning an Easter celebration that we were going to have at the apartment. And it was hours and hours of us just talking and talking. And it's like, it's such a privilege to have people in your home that you want to talk to. And we also help each other out. Like if I don't have a bobby pin or a safety pin or an ink pen, I don't know why all of my examples are pens, but like someone in the house has got it. Or like every night that me and my roommate are home together and in a social mood, we'll turn on reality TV and she'll rub my head. And then I'll help her in exchange, like write emails that are hard to construct and send. You know, like we've all got our strengths and weaknesses that we like hold each other and lift each other up through. I feel like this episode is very quickly just becoming a love letter to my roommates, but I've been so steeped in friendship for the time that I've lived here. And I've had people DM me asking if I can talk more about friendship. And sometimes I'm like, I don't really know what to say because that's a part of my life that feels so intrinsic right now. Like it's in my home. And I can feel that it's going to become something that has to become a lot more intentional. I don't really have to capital T, like try to be with friends right now. And now I'm stepping into a stage in my life where I will. And I don't really want these relationships to go from this like very nurturing, involved space to coffee catch ups, which is something that it is really easy to fall into in adulthood, especially when you live in a place where it's not like you're really necessarily close to people, even though they live in your city. I mean, my friends can technically live in the same city as me and still live an hour and a half away. So I don't know. I feel like this is a really bittersweet moment for me. And I think I'm not the only one. I got quite a few comments on my last episode from people saying they were going through breakups right now. I have friends that are going through career shifts, breakups, moves, all of these things. And it feels like not only the weather is changing, but like the seasons of our lives are changing. Like I think of it like a TV show. There are moments in your life where you can feel it shifting to a new season, and you have to like let go of a lot of things in order to let that shift happen. I mean, I'm sitting here with I like 6 bags of clothes that I'm going to donate. I remember a few years ago, I saw this TikTok by Eliza Day right before quite a big transition in my life. She was talking about how sometimes when you're feeling stuck, you have to get rid of things and rearrange the furniture just so that you have room to dance. And that was like a very different moment of transition that was coming up for me, but it comes to mind now more literally this time. Like I actually am getting rid of things so that I can, have room to dance, I guess. I also will point out that I did not have a room of my own as an adult until 2024. So I want to say I had lived in New York City for like 7.5 years with another roommate in the room with me until 2024. And the past 2 years of having a room of my own, again, calling back to Virginia Woolf's, like a woman must have a room of her own to write fiction. I've felt like I've reconnected with a part of myself that is lost when you don't have access to a private space. I've had a lot of really beautiful moments alone in this room where I've got a candle going and the lamp on and I'm like journaling. Like the other night, I was just drawing this and then writing on the other side of this page and singing along to my playlist at the top of my lungs. And it's like, I can do whatever I want in here. And that is so fucking amazing. So I don't know. I don't know that anyone will care about this as much as I do, but like this room means a lot to me. And I even think like when I decided to move, one of the first things that came to mind was like, oh, well, are people going to even want to watch me anymore if I have a different background? Which is like the stupidest thing. But there's obviously like a familiarity here that I know I can build and cultivate in another place. But again, it's very bittersweet. I feel like obviously these moments of transition will really have you reflecting and feeling nostalgic like nothing else. And honestly, I don't feel nostalgic for the stage of my life that I was in and the person that I was when I moved into this apartment. But I am feeling anticipatory grief about the stage that I'm in right now. I wouldn't go back to where I was or how I felt when I first moved into this apartment, though. Like, I was excited, of course. It was bigger than the apartment that we lived in before, but I remember how stagnant I felt and how lost I felt. I felt like I was very quickly falling behind all of my friends. And in hindsight, it's like, yeah, of course I felt like that. That I was in my early 20s. It's a canon event. But when you're going through it, it really feels shitty. But I was working a corporate job that was too easy to care about. I was unsure how to create a creative practice that felt like it was mine. I was drinking just as much as I was in college, even though my body was sending some very clear warning signs that it did not like that. I really think that 22 to 24 are really hard years for most people because they are themselves little transition periods. But I had no clear destination at this time. I only had little hints at the direction that I wanted to go in. And I actually think that's still how I operate today. I'm like not sure what the destination of anything is. I'm just following these little hints of like I'm living directionally instead of destinationally. But at that age, I felt so uncomfortable in that spot because previously, when I was like 18, I thought I had my whole life figured out. It was like, I'm going to go to NYU and then I'm going to slowly work my way up to Broadway. That was like the dream. And at this point in my life, it was clear to me that that was no longer the dream. And it wasn't even, I've talked about this before, it wasn't like I just like gave up on the dream. It was that I understood the dream more fully and understood that it was actually not the dream of my life. So I knew that, but I wasn't sure what the dream actually was. I only knew these really small things that were like stacking up in the day to day to show me what I wanted and what I didn't want. You know, like I lived in the financial district in Manhattan before we moved here, and that taught me that I go a little bit crazy if I don't have access to nature and I need to live somewhat close to a park. I was working a corporate job with plenty of opportunities to climb the ladder. Like they offered me promotions that I straight up turned down. And that was teaching me like, okay, this is a no. I don't know what a yes is, but this is a no. And finding what I wanted first felt like this process of just saying no quicker and quicker. And that can feel like failing. And it's not, but like in the moment, that's what it can feel like. What I didn't realize in those moments when I was coming up against things that were no's for me is that I was gathering really valuable information so that I could then sniff out what I actually did want to say yes to. And it reminds me of this conversation I had with my roommate the other night who pulled up this woman's Instagram and was like flipping through it and was like, there's something about this woman, like the career that she has, the life that she has. I'm like so jealous of it. It looks like she has a dream life, but I wouldn't necessarily want to do exactly what she does. But like there's something here. I keep flipping through it. And I was like, I think that's amazing to have. I think it can be painful sometimes to have people that you look to in that way because you can start to project all sorts of assumptions about their life being perfect. But if you can kind of filter through the assumptions about how perfect their life is, you can start to ask yourself, like, what is it about this person's life that I'm jealous of? And act on those things. Is it the fact that she works for a major publication? Is it the fact that she's writing about this specific thing? Is it the fact that she wears that specific outfit? And it reminds me of this article in Elle magazine called How to Love Yourself According to Jemima Kirk. And one of the questions that a reader sent in is, how do I slowly start dressing cooler, like easing into vintage without feeling like I'm cosplaying my more stylish friends? And Jemima's answer is, you are cosplaying your more stylish friends. We all are. My entire wardrobe is comprised of fleeting moments of hope that I could look as stylish and as beautiful as some other woman I once saw. And I think that can be applied across the board, like beyond style. I think if you've ever had that twinge of jealousy or like kind of a hyperfixation on someone else, like I remember in college, there was this girl who was a year above me who for some reason I always found myself like scrolling on her Instagram page and being just enamored, you know? And then years after college, she became a virtual assistant and started posting about that. And I had heard about being a virtual assistant before, but didn't really know much about how it worked. But seeing her do it, I feel like gave me the audacity to do it myself. And becoming a virtual assistant was the step into becoming a podcast producer, which was the step into hosting my own podcast. You know, like the way that other people can inspire you is not always cut and dry. Like it's not like you literally want to copy their whole life, but there's, like Jemima says, those like fleeting moments of hope that you could look like that or be like that, carry yourself like that, feel like that, whatever it is. Those are your hints towards what you can say yes to instead of that stage in life where it's more no, 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 no. I'm saying no to all of these things, but I don't know what I want to say yes to. Sometimes when you're jealous, like it shows you a little bit of what you want to say yes to. And it reminds me of a conversation I listened to on Good Hang with Jonathan Groff. And he was talking about the lyrics to a song in Merrily We Roll Along. And the song is called Growing Up. And Jonathan was saying that these are his favorite lyrics from the show. It says, solving dreams, not just trusting them, taking dreams, readjusting them, growing up. Growing up. And they were talking about how this is not just about being open and flexible to readjustment of your dreams, but it's actually a process of figuring out what your dreams mean to you. It is an investigation, meeting yourself and finding a life that feels like yours. And I still do this all the time. Like, it's not like I've reached a place where all of my dreams have come true and like I've figured it all out, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I feel like I'm solving my dreams and readjusting them all the time in doing this show. This is so gratifying for me. But something I really miss about acting and theater is being in a cast. The feeling of being in a cast is like why I loved acting as much as I did. And I don't even have coworkers right now. My work is this, and it's freelance podcast production and consultation. I don't have coworkers. I don't have a cast. So that's like something that I want to move towards, but I don't know what that looks like. But it feels good to know that that's a direction that I want to go in. It's not a destination. It's not a final product. I have no idea how I could make that happen for myself. But it's like a direction that I could see myself wanting to point myself in. And I think taking it one little direction at a time really helped me get through those hard years of like 22 to 24. And there's this exchange on Tumblr. I think it's based off of a text post that was originally posted by Svento is the username. But I saw it through like a question and answer thing where someone says, I've been thinking about the quote, every person between the age of 25 and 34 must have the inner hologram of their life that was built before they were 24 collapse because it was a child's construction. Ever since you posted it, it is so precise and discombobulating. LOL, I don't even know where to start. And then the original poster says, me too, shattered me completely and also freed me. I can be whoever I want now. I'm not a failure if I don't fulfill the dreams I had as a teenager. I can start over and dream again. And I agree with this to some extent. I think I more agree with her response that you're not a failure if you don't fulfill the dreams that you had as a teenager than I agree with this idea that everything that you dreamed about before the age of 24 was a child's construction. I think that that's like an interesting way to think about the dreams that actually didn't end up feeling right to fulfill. But I think that children can be wise. I think that children do have hints of what they want in them. And I think often the problem is we can get this steel grip on what exactly fulfilling the dream is going to look like. But like we intrinsically know what feels good to do and pursue and play around with. And, you know, I just think I had this like steel grip on this dream of like being an actress on Broadway. But I also was playing around with and loving exactly what I'm doing right now since a very young age. And I just didn't know that it could ever be a dream, that, you know, that it could be something I could really pursue. And I know that people make fun of kids now for dreaming of like being a YouTuber or whatever and saying like, oh, where has society been now that the most sought after job is a YouTuber? But even when I was a child and didn't know that this could ever be a job, I was making little fake room tours in my room that would never be posted until right now.
Hey guys, it's Hub Actress, and I'm gonna do a quick room tour. Now, all this stuff that's on my walls, all the papers, I have a bunch of stuff, and it takes a long time to explain to you what that is. So, if you want me to, I'll make another video that's, strictly, like, what's on my walls. But today, I'll just do regular things.
So all that to say, I don't think it's necessarily accurate to say that a child's construction is always wrong or useless. But you can also give yourself permission to move on from old dreams. I think we're all just looking for home, what feels like home. And it can be really difficult in those moments of transition to feel at home with yourself as your physical home changes, stepping away from one home into another, whether that's physically or in the dreams that you're creating for yourself. There's this screenshot of Anthony Bourdain, and he's saying, in the last 30 years, I've watched people chase dreams they secretly hated and dance with lovers they didn't love. And I think, I don't know, it just makes me think, like, if you're in a moment in your life where all you're doing is saying no to things and you are feeling stagnant and you don't have this like clear dream in your head of what you want your life to look like and where you want to land, just know that I think it's a completely worthy thing to say no to dreams that are not yours, to say no to homes that are not yours, so that you can chase dreams that you actually love and dance with lovers that you actually love. All that to say, I definitely haven't always known while living here what I want with my life. But one thing even 24-year-old Anna knew was how important her friends were to her. She knew that she needed that in order to carry her through. And I don't know, that makes me think she was pretty wise. She might not have known what was going on in any sense except for that one, but that was a good one. Also, this is a complete sidebar to end our episode on, but I know we were talking at the beginning about the changing of the seasons and how it can feel like being kicked out of the bird's nest and it can feel a little bit jolting. And I have a little tradition that me and my friends are trying to build out based on something that happened last spring. Me and my boyfriend went to the park on the first beautiful Saturday of spring, and every inch of the park was covered in people having picnics. And we sat there for a while, and at a certain point, the clouds came over the sun. For a while, it was probably the sun behind the clouds for like an hour. And then when the clouds parted, everyone who was picnicking started clapping at the sun. And it was just like the most beautiful, wholesome human experience. I was so glad to experience it. But now we've been talking about doing another clapping at the sun day. Who knows if we'll find ourselves in the position where the sun goes behind the clouds and then comes back out again. But we loved that experience, and we're going to invite our friends to hopefully recreate it for ourselves. So if you need a little ritual to get yourself feeling in the spirit of spring, that's a good one. Highly recommend. I think that's all I have for you today. I hope this prompts you to go and squish your friends as hard as you can, in a loving way, not a violent one. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.